Okay.
I live somewhere else.
Okay, we're recording. And so a big win for Georgia. I cannot say I'm surprised, y'all. I talked about this a lot this week privately to y'all, and I talked about it in Final Feelings. I just thought that Georgia. I don't know how good Auburn is. I don't want to scream that out here. I don't know how good Auburn is. I think that Georgia was going to do what they were going to do on the offensive defensive line. This defense is scary. I think that they match up well with everybody, maybe with the exception of Alabama and Clemson. But Florida better watch out with a non-mobile quarterback, Matt Go.
Yeah, this is exactly what we kind of wrote in Final Feelings. Stetson Bennett did not need to win the game by himself. This is a line of scrimmage game, always has been. I don't care if this new era of college football where you throw it around. This game is about running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage. That's what Georgia did today, and we expected that to happen. We've been talking about it all week. We've been writing about it all week. Run the football, control the line of scrimmage. That was going to be in Georgia's favor, and they did that in a big way today early on. The defense played great. We'll talk about that more. The running backs were great. Stetson was great, but I think the offensive line should get the biggest game ball. They opened up giant holes for the backs all game. They gave Stetson plenty of time to throw. The offensive line, and then Tyson Campbell was another guy who I thought just played an outstanding game.
I feel like we say we're not surprised, and to a certain extent we aren't, because we have been talking about this, but did we expect it to be in this fashion? Matt and I were talking before this. Auburn just looked helpless. It literally looked like they couldn't do anything.
I'm not surprised. Y'all, you got it. People, listen, you can call us Georgia homers if you want to. That's fine, although I think we're quite critical of the team when we need to be. Yeah. Just go watch the games in slow motion. I'm telling you, that's all I do is I get home, I have a particular setup, I watch the games in slow motion. You watch Auburn, you watch them in slow motion. They really struggled with Kentucky. You go watch Georgia when they were in slow motion against Arkansas. It was not nearly as bad as they said, as it appeared. And certainly now listen, this offense has still got a little ways to go. I thought Stetson played well, but he can play better than he played, Matt, frankly.
There's no doubt he had a lot of help from the running game, but he missed some throws here and there. A little behind the guys. I think he overthrew a couple guys, but for the most part, on third down, when it matters the most, he was outstanding and played his best on third down. But I'll go back to what I said all week. Does Bo Nix really scare anyone? The answer was no. He certainly didn't scare the Georgia defense. They had controlled him all game. He looked lost. He looked frustrated. This Georgia defense was too fast for Bo Nix, and it's going to be too fast for a lot of these guys, Dylan.
Stetson Bennett was competent today, and that's what we said all week. That's all he needed, except that one throw on third down early in the game where he scrambled out of the pocket, and I think he hit Kearis Jackson rolling out. That was elite. That was a phenomenal throw.
Yeah. There were a couple
the Pickens touchdown pass I thought was just great too. Yeah.
There were a couple of times where it is hard. I'll talk about this in Legge's thoughts, and having written what I've written, clearly have some connections in Pierce County, but it is hard to get your head around. One of the smallest guys that plays a position that's not kicking the ball is the guy that's out there as your most important player. But when you watch him run, he is extremely fast. I don't know if he's quick, but he's extremely fast. And he can really throw the football. I'm going to go there. Jake Fromm did not look like this last year. Yeah. Go Dylan.
Well, Jake Fromm didn't look like that this year, but I think we can also tell that Todd Monken's offense is just vastly superior to whatever James Coley was doing last year, because whatever was happening last year under that offense was just discombobulated, just ugly, and they're just well-oiled this year, at least this game specifically.
Well, these last 6 quarters, the whole time, was it really great tonight? I thought, Zamir is getting back to what I've seen in the past. It's not Tank Bigsby's going to be frightening, okay? And he didn't even play that great tonight.
That's my guy.
No, he's good, no question. But Bo Nix was never comfortable, Matt. I think you're a little bit overstating his value or undervalue. You are undervaluing him to some degree. Against Georgia, he's going to have a hard time doing what they want to do because he is not surrounded by playmakers the likes of which he needs, or an offensive line.
Yeah. I wrote in thoughts in the box, and I think Kirby said it afterwards. There were plenty of times where they should have sacked him more than they missed him a lot, and that has to do with Bo Nix. I mean, Adam Anderson's a good player. All those defenders, those outside linebackers, they know what they're doing, and he got out of a lot of sacks. They got to him a few times, but we saw what he could do, but against this Georgia defense, I mean, just too much for him. But I was happy for your guys, Amir Dean. I know I was ready for that tweet about this is the 2018 Zamir White, and I thought he looked outstanding, and so did the rest of the backs, really.
Yeah. I mean, Milton looked good.
And again, like you said, Matt, the offensive line played just superb. And I don't know, I didn't think we would see it. I thought they would struggle a little more early in the season just because a huge turnover since last year. And last year, I didn't think the offensive line, it was good, but I never thought it looked this dominant maybe at times.
Well, that's harder for me to see sometimes. I know I always say that when I'm on the field. I'm not on the field this season, unfortunately. But that is harder sometimes for me to see. People who watch it on TV can see it pretty well. But there was never really a time that it felt like Georgia couldn't control Auburn's offensive line. But again, I mean, everybody doesn't do this a living like we do, particularly like me, who's kind of a really strange person about watching things ahead of time. But you should go watch the games in slow motion. And if you do that, it doesn't take that long. But you just fast forward until they actually start. And if you saw the Kentucky game last week, you knew this was coming because Auburn can't do it. Moving forward, that's not maybe going to be as easy for Georgia, but moving forward wasn't tonight. Tonight they dealt with what was the number 7 team in the country. I didn't rank them there. I thought that was too high. But, and where Auburn will go from here, and where Georgia will go from here, we can't know. But tonight, I mean, with no one said it, Dylan, in a definitive way, but essentially everyone on these post games was saying Stetson is their guy.
I mean, yeah, I feel like at this point you have to, right? They just steamrolled a top 10 team. You're not gonna move on from a quarterback who didn't turn the ball over in a game like this. I mean, I wouldn't.
I mean, I got caught up, Matt, in the situation where, coming off of last Saturday, and watching that game, everybody, this trio of morons decided that Stetson should have been the starter. But to me, and then I started catching myself, Matt, thinking, well, these are college football coaches. They're not just going to give up on guys, but clearly our eyes are not lying to us. I mean, he right now is their best option at quarterback, and that sounds strange, sounds bizarre. Kyler Murray was a walk-on, if I'm not mistaken. Baker Mayfield definitely was. So he's not those guys. He's not the physical talent of them, Matt, but he ain't bad.
Well, Kyler Murray was a 5-star. I just want to add that.
I knew I screwed that up.
I think he won. I think he won 3 straight state championships.
Yeah, is that not the same as a walk-on?
Lost the game.
Is that not the same as a walk-on?
But I think Kirby was obviously reading goalpost because we've been saying it since all week that Stetson should be the guy. He earned the opportunity to start. There's no reason why DeJuan Mathis should have started this game after Stetson's performance, and I think he took firm control of that job today. And listen, we saw that he is a little limited when it comes to arm strength. He underthrew Kearis Jackson for an easy touchdown. But I mean, we're kind of nitpicking here. But the throws he made on 3rd down when it meant the most, he was accurate. He made the right decisions. And, guys, he didn't turn the ball over. And that's what we talked about. He can't turn the ball over. And he didn't. I think he managed the game really well.
Quarterbacks turn the ball over, Dylan.
Yeah, well, if he continues to play, he will turn the ball over eventually. But in a game like this, when your quarterback is not your star player, you can't have him be turning the ball over too.
That's true.
Because if you're taking shots downfield, especially, like, it's going to happen occasionally. But Stetson is not really going to be taking huge shots downfield, and he had a few tonight. But the risk with him, you got to mitigate. You can't have turnovers with a quarterback like him who's managing the game.
We've talked almost for 10 minutes. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, I wanted to shout out Kearis Jackson. Huge game for him, breakthrough game. He was phenomenal. But, Dean, I wanted to ask you, you talked about Arkansas being loud last week. What was the environment there in Athens? Was it loud? How was the fans? I mean, what was your experience?
That's actually a really good question because I would have forgotten that. It was much more like a home game for Georgia than last week at Arkansas was. The crowd bothered Auburn, particularly at the beginning of the game. This place is like a club. I know everyone's not drunk, but it feels like a party. Dylan's like, I don't know. I mean, it's a part. This place knows how to throw a party, and it wasn't like this 20, 30, 40 years ago. This place knows how to throw a party. They have changed. This is my family member who is here tonight said this is an event. This isn't a football game. This is an event. And I thought even with the social distancing, even with the masks, and even with this and even with that, it still was like a real football game. And it was loud, but not loud in a stupid way, the way that Arkansas was. I mean, Arkansas has never mellowed out. You could hear the crowd roar here. They did have the background sort of Falcons noise that you would hear at the Georgia Dome back in the day, but it wasn't that bad. I think people were into it. I would say for the most part, people were respectful of what they were being asked to do, and with good reason. But it's going to be tough to play here. Tennessee rolls in here next week. They have not lost in a while, but they're going to have to really play lights out to beat Georgia. They're going to need. I mean, in terms of Garantano still being the quarterback, that gives me pause with Tennessee. But they are a better team than they have been lately. They have won 7 games in a row. They're about to bring their happy asses into Athens and to face the number 4 team in the country. They're really Georgia's better than the Gators are. How much better? It's not as much as it's been maybe in the past, but they're better than Florida. Are they better than Alabama? I don't know. I mean, Alabama looked pretty good, but Alabama also gave up a lot on defense today. Clemson looked like they were playing while Georgia played. Clemson looked like they were. Clemson's not as good, I don't think, as maybe people think they are. I think they may be the number 1 team in the country, but maybe they're not the best version of themselves yet. And we still have this. I mean, the Big 12 is a debacle. I will just let Dylan take it from there.
I mean, the Big 12 is just awful. I think I texted y'all this. They're on Pac-12 status and might be competing for the 5th worst conference.
I think so.
Or the 5th best start. But it's just a total disaster. That place sucks.
The thing about this, though, y'all, that's so critical, like tonight, I mean, Georgia is the first team in the country that has a top 10 win. I mean, that matters. Auburn, Bama's today against A&M. That was not a top 10 win. I mean, the Gators have not played a top 10 team yet. This did not feel like a top 10 game. So as the season goes on, I think all of these teams will lose a game. If you're Georgia, you need to play well. If you can go 10-0, you go 10-0. You need to play as well as you can, Dylan, and then take it from there because all these other teams are, Ohio State's going to get into the playoffs. Clemson's going to get into the playoff. The SEC champion is going to get into the playoff. And then probably the second best team from the SEC is going to get in. That's what it looks like to me.
I was going to say, it seems like that because I don't think Pac-12 is going to get one in. No. They're starting too late. I don't even know how that's going to work. Big 12 has obviously just shit away all their opportunities. I mean, even Iowa State already lost one. I don't even know who. Baylor?
I think Oklahoma. I believe Oklahoma State is undefeated.
Okay, so sure, maybe.
No.
We can fantasize about that, but yeah, it really does seem like both division champions from the SEC will get in because no one else from the ACC is going to get in, and I can't imagine anyone other than the Big Ten champion getting in.
How about the Gators and A&M? I think that's next week, Matt. I mean, Florida should win that game, but
Florida can't tackle. Their defense is so soft. They can't tackle. They're going to put up a lot of points. That offense is clicking. I think they are going to score a lot of points, and they're better than A&M. A&M was really bad today. Alabama looked really good, but A&M also looked bad. I know you like that, Dylan, but Florida is the better team. I think this is going to be like an early 40s, late 30s type of shootout. I think there's going to be a lot of points. But I think Florida should win. My question to y'all is Tennessee better than Auburn?
They might be, but I don't. You know what? Probably not. But go ahead, Dylan.
I think their offensive line is really good.
But they're going to need to be.
Yeah, and you know how good against Georgia's defensive front, I don't know. We're talking about which one of the best defensive fronts in the country, maybe if not the best.
If Georgia's secondary shut down Auburn's receivers today, I don't see any way how Tennessee's receivers are getting open against Tyson Campbell, who looked like a first-round pick today. So did Azeez Ojulari. But Tyson Campbell was phenomenal, locked down Seth Williams. I think Tennessee's going to have a lot of trouble getting open and throwing the ball on Georgia next week.
They don't have the skill. They have the line. They don't have the skill guys, Tennessee. And I
they have solid backs, but they're not running on this Georgia defense.
But they might run a little bit better than Auburn did.
Auburn,
I don't know how much better. I mean, Auburn really struggled to run the ball, so I think most teams could.
This is not going to be Auburn's last loss. I mean, I'm not trying to take away from what Georgia accomplished, but this is not going to be their last loss. And, you know, it's hard to figure out what's reality a little bit right now. I mean, I think Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and the Gators definitely look like top 5 teams. I don't know. I mean, like everybody was ready to sort of bury Georgia at the half of that Arkansas game. And now we've got 8 quarters of football rather than 4. And who's been the most impressive over their full 8 quarters, in Clemson's case, 12? Clemson got tested a little bit tonight. And we the problem with Clemson is you just can't know with them. They're not dealing with what these other teams are dealing with.
They've got Miami next week.
I was going to point that out, but
sorry.
I don't think Miami can beat them. The question is, can they run around with them? I'm a little bit. Clemson's defense is legitimate, so I'm skeptical of that. But I just think Georgia needs to keep winning as many games as possible. This was a blowout. They just need to win as many games as possible by as large amount as possible. And when they lose, it needs to be tight. If they lose, it needs to be tight. Okay, well, that's going to be it for our comment. I thought it was a dominating performance from Georgia, and I was not surprised. I need to watch Tennessee a little bit more, but my suspicion is it's going to be similar to this. Matt?
Offensive line, Tyson Campbell, Azeez Ojulari, Stetson Bennett, Zamir White, all the game balls. I thought they all played great football today.
Dylan?
People are really going to struggle against this Georgia defense. I don't see how – I would be shocked if a team rushed for over 100 yards on them this year.
Dean Legge, Dylan Webber, Matt DeBary wrapping it up from Sanford Stadium. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter.